Hello and welcome to episode 8 of the Sackdown. Today we have the LCS Finals MVP Inspired with us, coming off a big upset. You know, not many people thought the TL was going to lose, but I don't know, Inspired got it done. His team got it done. Probably one of the craziest endings to a series I've ever seen. I mean, I would just say it's the craziest ending to a series that's ever happened. I mean, the minions winning you guys the game. At first I was a little bit not sold on your MVP. I thought like maybe the ranged minion, the final one that autoed the Nexus, should have got the MVP instead of you, but that's neither here nor there. So we're going to get into it today. We got a ton of topics to cover. First one, I've been cooking this up for a while. I've been meaning to ask you, what do you have against vegans?
I don't know, the term just like happened to be there. Like we're thinking, what's the way we can like describe the playstyle without really like being toxic? So just, the vegan was a good word for that, and then it ended up offending some people. So maybe it was a bit too toxic for some standards. And what do I have against them? I don't know. I just don't respect the playstyle of vegans.
So it's nothing against their dietary choices. Mainly just the playstyle.
Loving, letting animals live. Like you don't punish the inters, the so-called animals.
Yeah,
you just
exactly.
then eat the grass, which is the minions. No, I get it.
I mean, I think it's fine. I think that a good place to start with you would be just like the narratives around you as a player, because I think that you're one of the most interesting players when it comes to how people talk about you within the scene and then how people talk about you outside of the scene. Like when you ask anyone in the league, like who the good players are, your name's always brought up. Obviously, you're a multi-time MVP. Now you've won 2 championships with 2 different teams. And it seems like you're well respected by the players, but the community, like they just, every time you do an interview, there'll always be one line that will be the headline and people will just be like going in on you no matter what you say. I just see you as being somebody who's super European. Like that's the way that Yamato and I talk about it. We're like, yeah, Inspired's just European. He's just going to say what he thinks. And like, he's going to hope that you don't get offended by it, but he'll just say whatever he thinks. What's your reaction to like the community criticism? Because I assume that you weren't expecting the level of criticism you would get from some of the interviews you had.
I mean, honestly, I knew that some people will not like it, but I'd rather say whatever I think rather than give some PR answer and make everyone happy. And then honestly, like if you give PR answer, like people that know a bit more, they know that you just didn't want to answer the question with how you've actually thought about stuff. So yeah, whenever I get asked pretty much anything, I say how I feel, even though some people might not like it, and I know it's truth to me. And I'm never gonna like lie about some players or some situations or something that happened just so people will like me more. I feel like I will just say what I think, and if you disagree with me, feel free to. And if you don't like me because of that, feel free to. I don't really care that much.
I like that approach. I'm curious because it was interesting because when I joined Casey, I was basically like 3 players were locked in, right? And I received a list of AD carries and a list of junglers. And I remember like there was like 10 jungle names. There was the 2 only that I was interested in, which was you and Bo at the time. And I remember when I brought up Inspired, I was like, I think Inspired is a very interesting player. And then it's like, no, like we don't think the player profile is going to work. I was like, what do you mean? He's just a fucking good fucking player. It's like, no, I think we think maybe he's a bit too toxic. Like we had this issue from last year. I'm like, what the fuck? And I was okay, let's pursue Bo. It is what it is, like I was happy with the choice. I'm curious in regards to how the community perception is. It's kind of funny how GMs kind of interact with that. Do you feel like it has ever had an impact in terms of how your off seasons have gone, in terms of your own opportunities and how that has shaped your decisions to like be a part of certain teams or maybe lost opportunities due to this perception?
I think so. I think it did affect it. I mean, I don't really know myself because it's like up to the GMs and people that are like making roster moves. But Andrew, like he's our GM on FlyQuest now, and he was my GM on EG. He told me that when I was joining from Rogue, he got told that I'm like a toxic guy that is hard to work with. But he said like the story didn't really make much sense to him, so he was willing to take a risk because he thought it's like it's some just bullshit that doesn't really add up with how people say it. That it's like it's hard to work with and it's toxic, stuff like that. So yeah, he just decided to take a risk, I guess, and it worked out well for him. It worked out well for me. So I'm happy that it was not an issue for him. I think maybe from some other teams, like as you are talking right now about the KC, like if that was the issue for their management, like for sure it happened to some other teams too. Then that we don't really know about. I mean that's unfortunate, I guess, but I think I'm good enough to not really mind it because I think in the end of the day I will always get opportunity from some team. So even if one team decides to not take me because of my reputation, I guess I hope that not everyone will make the same mistakes and someone will be willing to get me on the team.
I was thinking about your transition to North America because you're a player that I thought would never leave Europe. I just thought you would always be playing within the region. I mean, you're performing really well. You had just won MVP, and it seemed like just like your personality is just born and bred EU culture, just within a person. So I was wondering about two different things: your decision to move over to the LCS in general, and then also like if you've had to adapt your personality at all, like differentiate the way that you say things when you deal with like younger NA players as opposed to when you came up in Europe.
I mean, first of all, for sure, I adjusted how I talk to people. I mean, I don't think I was at the beginning of playing in LEC, like I was not really talking anything to my teammates because I was mostly focusing on myself because I knew that I need to play way better before I even speak to anyone about their own issues. Like, so I was really focused on that, and then I think after summer split of my like second season when we were like playing already well, I was trying to get team as a whole to play better. So maybe people got a little bit more offended, but I don't think like as a team we had any issues. Like I don't think my teammates really disliked how I treated anyone because I think at the end of the day everyone knew we are just trying to get better as a team. But I realized that I just need to have a different approach to every person, the way I talk to them. So I think I did a good job at it in EG, and now I'm doing a good job at it in FlyQuest. Like every player I treat differently, and I brought the points in a different way. So that's for sure something I changed a lot. And why did I leave EU? I mean, when I was on Rogue and we lost the tiebreakers to C9, I was like really mad at my team mostly, like that we managed to lose to NA team in such a fashion. Like I felt like the game was so free, and it was just unbelievable to me that we lost. And I just didn't feel like I want to go for another year with that roster. And I had the contract signed already, so I couldn't really go to any EU team. So the only option was to go to NA. So I was just interested in obviously the best teams in NA that I could join and go to Worlds with. So I was talking to EG and Team Liquid, and it ended up that EG was more interested in me. So I just went there.
Yeah,
I mean, Rogue just straight up blocked like any EU team, like that was out of the conversation from the get-go.
Yeah, I think the buyout was just way too high, so no EU team would pay the buyout. So I think it was a similar situation for Hans. So both of us just came to NA.
I see. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask about Hans specifically because I remember back in the time, I feel like there's a statute of limitations on things. It's like 2 years, 3 years, and then you can kind of like talk about things. So I figured I could ask you, and you can obviously feel free to deny the question. But I remember hearing at this time that there was like a issue between you and Hans, like how like you interacted with Hans or like how Hans reacted to your criticism, something like this. Did you have a problem with Hans in Rogue 2021?
I mean, I remember only one situation from like last split we played together before playoffs when we were playing against Fnatic with Bwipo and Hilisang, and Hans was like very dramatic in scrims after we lost some series. Like he was saying that he can't play the game because enemy support jungler always diving him on every slow push. Like he can't walk past his tower, that he can't walk up on mid wave. He doesn't know what to do. He can't play the game. And I was like, bro, like please shut the fuck up. Like we can win. Like you don't have to be so dramatic. Like you are really overestimating everything. So that I think that was like one point where we got really mad at each other. But I think other than that, we always worked very well, and I knew how he likes to play the game, and he knew what to do in order to like drive the game. He's the player that really likes to drive the game and doesn't really like to be a passenger in the game. Like he needs to be the main star or like main carrier, and the game should be played around him. I think he's really good at it, and that's how he wants the game to be played. So I feel like we were working well together.
Yeah, yeah, you can go ahead, Yamato. Go ahead.
No. If you have something on the topic, sorry, I wanted to kind of go through, at least in my mind, I feel like Inspired's career is so interesting. I wanted to go through it like in the order of the chronology to the point where the minion beat the Nexus. But if you have something on the current topic, go ahead, brother.
No, well, I just wanted to ask you specifically about like how you managed player differences like this, because I mean, when you hear anything about Hans and you hear Inspired, I mean, obviously you don't know exactly what's going on in the team, but even Dylan Falco came out this week. There was a interview where he said Hans is like an anime character, you know, like he's just like going off vibes. He's like, oh man, like this is my weakness, this is my strength, this really counters me in life. You know, he just has this type of mentality, and it feels like Inspired is kind of hyper realistic. You know, there's almost like zero emotion in terms of like the way he analyzes the game. Did you ever have things like this within your teams where you had to try to bridge the gap between two extremely different people?
I guess, I mean, the way he described Hans is for sure real. Like he is kind of the person like that. He really needs good vibes in the team to perform. But I feel like the vibes of our team were always really good, all to the point of the summer split of that year when we started losing. Like other than that, I always felt like we are winning like 70-80% of our scrims. We're always doing good in official games, and especially in regular season, and we're just like winning everything. So everyone was having fun and having good vibes, but then it just usually collapsed in playoffs. But I don't know. I didn't feel like I had much problem like adjusting the fact that I'm a bit different personality than him. I feel like we were getting along very well, and it was really fun playing with him. And I think he also enjoyed playing with me. And even then, after us playing together, when he was on Team Liquid and I was on EG, we were still being very good friends and spending some time with each other. So I don't know. I feel like it was a nice time. I really like Hans.
I think what's so interesting about how like team dynamics kind of play out is, at least in a lot of cases, I think as a coach you have to act almost as a translator between players, because everyone, especially in Europe, like everyone comes from very like different backgrounds. Like I always make the reference to Vitality. It's like we had one French, Portuguese, one German, one like Polish. Like everyone is speaking different. One Italian. Like everyone has different accents, different outlooks, different views. I feel like it's so important to like establish closer bonds. And it's like always when people talk about vibes is when it's easy to create those bonds, teams function better if the players are good. But when it's more difficult, I think as a coach, it's like the main thing is like, oh, what he's trying to say is he's trying to say this. This is what he means when he says this. And you're just trying to like glue things together. And then it's just a question of how much do you want to risk when you're like breaking down the team dynamic? Like, let's say you have like issues between players in the middle of the split and you might be safe for playoffs, something like this. In those moments, you can take like risks for like people to speak up, to talk their shit, to fucking really flame the shit out of each other just to get it out of the way, just to make sure that like the market of ideas gets challenged between the group. But sometimes there's situations where you're like going into playoffs and you're like, maybe you're playing the last best of fives, then you're like really just putting a pillow like behind everyone's words in a way, and you're just trying to make sure that the ship that is wrapped in like fucking flex tape just remains like intact. Like 2022 when we made that run through regionals and all we had to do was like fucking, like we had this fucking gauntlet in because we started in lower bracket. At that point it was like, I just need to make sure everybody's happy and make like concessions that maybe I wouldn't do if I was at the beginning of a year, like let people get away with shit they really shouldn't be get away with. But you kind of need to make that concession because the risk when you want to unravel and break people down, you can lose so much performance in that. So we were like really lucky to like make it through. So it's just all about where is the dynamic at, and then you just have to like act as a translator between each and every one of the players. Because if you can't speak for a player in terms of his ideas and what he wants to bring to the table, I think that you have kind of failed as a coach if you can't understand the player and you can't like translate it to somebody else. You know?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I feel like that's the most important like job for a coach, just to like you know what to do in certain situations with your players. Like you kind of need to know how your player is gonna react to what you say, or how he's gonna react to what his teammates say, and try to, I don't know, make it work together. Like so no one really gets too offended. As you said, also you need to know the time of the season when you are pulling up things. Like when the season is about to end and the most important games are happening, it's better to not have too many heated discussions and try to keep it calm and everyone in a good mood. So yeah, I think it's very important for a coach to know what to do in certain situations like that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that specifically, the dynamic between, I guess, you and coaches, because I feel like you're a type of player that knows the fucking game, right? Like you know how you want to play, you know how other people want to play. So what type of like information will a strategic coach provide to you? Like what are you looking for from a strategic coach? Because it seems like you have a very strong view of how you want the game to be played. It's like almost like you're doing the coach role in game. You're doing the IGLing every time comms are released. You know, you're making every single plan throughout the game. So how does coaching work with a player like you?
I'm not sure. To me, more the coaching is more useful about like enemy team. Like if you see enemy team patterns that are repetitive and you can kind of abuse. Like for example, some of enemy side laner like to push wave without much cover. Like enemy support likes to reset very early for tempo. Like Team Liquid does. Like often APA is just left for the last wave on the side lane alone, and
That's how you won game 4. Well,
yeah,
before you guys threw it.
Korjej is already basing for wards and trying to set up vision on the other side to like gain tempo. And I remember in game I was telling Alan just to I felt like this Tristana is catching waves way too high. Just like go behind and put the ward, and then eventually Garen will TP and will kill her. And then like the moment I saw her overextended, and I knew that there is not whole team behind her, I'm just screaming to Bwipo the TP, and it's a free kill. And then we just start Nash, and someone won the game. So like stuff like that. Usually I will notice the patterns of enemy team, but if you have analyst in your team that will like study the team a bit more and watch all of their games and see if there is like something very similar in every game. That's like useful information for me. But for my own team, I feel like I usually just notice mistakes that are being made. Like if someone is not using their champions, or someone is misplaying in team fights, mispositioning, or is destroying the tempo for the whole team, that even though someone is ahead, he can't really push his lead because the teammates around him don't really help him do that. Or yeah, basically I feel like in the game I feel what's going wrong with us, that we can't progress the game, or that the game becomes lost. So I just need a coach when it comes to enemy teams, I feel like.
Okay. You know, I want to go even back even further, like because like you are 22 years old. It's kind of crazy to even think about that. You're 22. You're 22. You have been very, very busy as a player. I can remember when you came onto the scene 2019, it's like Rogue was such a trash team. Like competing in Europe, Rogue was such a joke in spring. Like this was the spring roster. It was like, I remember it was like
right?
Senkooks, HQ, Prophet.
HQ was on the team. Oh, hell no.
HQ was on the team. Like I don't want to roast them. But
I do. Like, HQ was just.
We had our boy Kikis in there too. Like Kikis was there, and like I remember that like your name showed up. Like you were like in some of these Polish rosters. You played, of course, in the Ultra League as well on the Rogue roster. Your jump into the LEC, like what were your expectations? Why didn't you guys play already in spring? What was the whole strategy surrounding it? Because like the whole roster changed into summer, and then 2019, boom, rookie the split inspired. Here he is, you know, ready to get better and take the world by storm. It felt like.
I mean, we were just a new team in Spring Split, so I think management just wanted to let us give us some time to like get used to playing with each other, and give us one season in Ultraliga. So me, Lars, and Finn, like we were playing for the first time. Like Vander joined my team, and it was already like very shocking to me. Like the guy that I was watching before play at Worlds and LCS is just now playing with me. So I think it was for sure really good decision to not just put us in LEC. Like we for sure should have started in academy, and then we are doing really good there. So and main team was doing pretty bad. So management decided that it's gonna be a good decision to just promote the whole team. And other than that, what was the other part of the question?
I guess the second aspect was just you coming into LEC. What kind of
what did I
expectations
expect?
have you set from like being on the outside? Was it shocking to you, the level, or was it easy for you? Did you always have like this booming confidence that you have about you ever since?
Oh no, when I joined, I was like really scared. I was like, oh no, I feel like everyone in this league is for sure like really good. Like I don't know if I will be able to keep up. And then I just kept playing scrims, and like in scrims, I was always doing pretty good. I felt like I had a good idea of what's going on, and I was like pretty surprised that I'm able to keep up with the players. Then on stage, I felt a little bit nervous. So like my plans were not that clear. Like I didn't really see the big picture of the game. I was kind of just locked on my screen and just like farming comms and like listening to whatever Vander had to say. And yeah, but slowly I was able to kind of transition my performance from scrims to official games. Like I was just trying to just zoom out a bit more, like look at the whole map and look at every player around me. And then it kind of worked. But yeah, at the beginning, I really thought that everyone in the league is gonna be really good. Like that, it will be really hard for me to keep up. But with the time going on, with the scrims I played, I was just gaining confidence. We were winning quite some games in scrims, and then we managed to win some games in official games as well and make playoffs. And yeah, I just became more confident after, I guess, just playing against those players.
Random little tangent, because you mentioned like the decision of like moving you guys, giving you guys time, and then moving you into summer without making like any rash decisions to try to salvage that spring roster. They took it easy, moved you into summer. Something that's been like a hot conversation has been the GM Fly, because like in the past years, like post your time, there's like from outside, Rogue's decision making has looked very strange, like them losing Trinby. Now I get to know the story of what happened between you and the team, right? And there's been some players they've lost, and they've lost basically like a very, very strong momentum they had. And from your impression, being in the org, working with Fly and so forth, what is your general impression and memory in working in the organization?
I mean, he did sign me for the academy and then promoted me to the main team. He trusted. He said that I remind him kind of Jankos, because he also saw Jankos at his beginnings of his career. So I was really happy that he gave me the chance and let me play in first in the Rogue Academy and then in the Rogue main team. I feel like and he also really trusted in Larsen. Like he knew that both me and him are very promising players that will be able to achieve a lot. And yeah, and he gave us a chance. And then after that, when I said that I don't want to play on Rogue anymore and I want to like get another team, they said that I will have to look into any options. And to me, it just made sense. Like if I would be them, I would also say that I don't want to just give you for free to like our rivals. So you should probably look into other region. And I was happy that they at least didn't like force me to stay and play there, because I really didn't want that anymore. And so I don't know, I feel happy about everything he did to me. Like he helped with starting my career, and then with the moment I didn't feel like I want to play for them anymore, he didn't really block me. And the decision he made after that, with like replacing Madrang after, or like replacing Odoamne after they won the spring split, or like the summer split or whatever, and later on replacing Trimby, like those decisions I will not speak about. In my opinion, it was from the outside, I like, really didn't understand what's going on there and who's making the shots. But I expected it to just go really down after the decisions they made. But the moment they replaced me and Hans and they took Madrang and Comp, I feel like those not bad options. Like people were hating on them, but to me were like, yeah, I felt like it was the best replacement they could get, like for both roles, honestly. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much bad to say about Fly.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about this whole period, because when you consider how Rogue was in your first couple years, the whole narrative around you guys was that you were really strong in regular season, and then you guys were playoff chokers. You weren't a real team. You'd win all the regular season games, then it would get to playoffs, you guys would choke and lose. And this narrative really started becoming like locked in, I would say, around the spring 2021, when you guys got reverse swept by Mad. I know the players hate this label. This is one of the labels that every player, if I bring it up, it just they cringe at the idea of being called a choker. What was your opinion of being called a choker earlier on in your career? Not even you specifically, but the teams you were on. Is this something you internalized at all? Did you feel like you were choking at all in these moments? How did you react to this?
I mean, at this point, I don't really remember exactly, but I know at that point, I didn't really believe that. And I don't know if I didn't believe that to cope or to not cope. But I felt like we were playing fine all season, but we just never really came prepared into playoffs too well because we were doing so well in the regular season that we always like kept playing the same stuff going into playoffs. When really often the thing is that the patch just changes and there is some better way or better picks that usually you can pull out in playoffs. I remember in 2020,
Lucian
yes.
Eve?
Lucian Evelyn from Fnatic like really surprised us in week 1, and that kind of destroyed our first playoff series. And after that, we had a week to pick it up, and we started like winning games in playoffs. We took G2 to game 5, but we didn't manage to win. And then in 2021. I think in Spring Split we had a really good idea of meta. I felt like it was really easy meta for me to carry games, like with a Hekari Mudir. So that final we for sure choked. I think I remember when we were 2-0 up, and in game 3 we took Nash at like 25 minutes or something like that. I was like, wow, we are actually about to just 3-0 them. Like there's no way we can lose. We had Karma top
Did
lane.
You say this?
No, I didn't say that. I just thought it to myself.
Okay.
I was like, we had Karma top lane with Caitlyn Morgana and Tristana with full tank Hekarim with Nash, and we are about to get soul. I was like, okay, it's over. And then we went bot to Siege Tower. Like our carriers mispositioned and like didn't get black shielded or stuff like that. Like one person died. We all disengaged. Went to Drake fight, and in the Drake fight, our formation was like so bad. Like our Ardent Karma was like mantra queuing enemy backline, like far away from our backline. So like they were completely not connected. Then I remember Trimby landing Q on enemy Wukong with Morgana, and there is a trap going under him. And then Larsen Tristana ults the Wukong away, and Wukong survives while coming back into the teamfight, killing everyone. Then this was just like very weird way to start losing teamfight, and then we started getting nervous. We lost the game. Game 4, we like didn't really know what to say. We just got stomped. And going into game 5, it was pretty dangerous territory, but we managed to get a really big lead with Nash. And we also like once we were really ahead, like I don't know, we couldn't really split push the game with Nash really well. Like we had Rice and Renekton. I remember Rice was on side lane, and we are like trying to force random fights. Like Hans was trying to be a bit too aggressive on mid waves because he had Tamkench, while Rice was not even with us, and enemies were like finding those really weird engages, and we just lost the game. Like that series for sure, I would say we choked after throwing game 3. Like game 4 and game 5 was not how we usually played. And I feel like that spring split just affected our summer split a lot, like going into playoffs. And that's why I think the team kind of got destroyed. I feel like if we won that final in spring split, our summer split performance would be way better as well. So who knows what would happen then?
Yeah. Was this one of like the main reasons you didn't see your future with Rogue as a team?
Yeah, after we lost the spring finals, and then I didn't really care about summer, but we went to Worlds and we lost the game to C9, and like it just reminded me so much about the way we lost finals in spring that I just didn't wanna experience it again. I said that I'm done here, and I don't wanna risk another year that similar experience will happen. I just wanna try something new, and if it will happen on the different team, then at least it will be a new story, and it will be something different.
I'm kind of curious in terms of like your takeaways moving in. Dom asked about the differences of how it was to work in North America, but looking at like your progression, I thought like after competing against you in Europe, obviously it was also tied to the meta because it was mostly like I remember like your Lilia stood out to me, your Udi really stood out to me, and I think that like your teammates were definitely players that. Needed to have jungle information at all times, otherwise they would be very, very gankable. I remember having this in the prep work, and then really what made me reshape my mind about you was how you won like the split in EG, because I thought that was a completely different side to you in terms of playing like these junglers that need to be very, very active. Do you think those years were just circumstantial in terms of what was necessary based off of the meta? Because like killing chickens, killing raptors was like giga broken back then. Like invading raptors on cooldown was like super OP. Basically, what I'm angling at is what were the biggest learnings from your time in Rogue, and how did it develop you as a player, especially after that, like that summer split, like we mentioned, that it was painful. It's like you got 0-3 by Mad, you guys got 0-3 by Bwipo Jungle. And then there was like the Worlds Run with the fucking with the C9 loss that you mentioned. What were the biggest takeaways? Like, how did you grow from the situation?
I think the biggest takeaway, like after all of that happened, was that I just need to treat everyone differently. Like just talk to every player in a different way, because everyone will react differently to criticism and like the basically anything I say to them. So I think going into EG, I had a very good idea on the way I can talk to, for example, Impact, and the way I can talk to Danny or Jojo. Like I treated all of them kind of in a different way, and I think that was a big part of the success we had on EG. And about the meta question, or like champion picks and stuff like that, like I do believe that when I was on Rogue, that was just the meta. Like I couldn't really do anything. Like Udyr Hecarim was really OP in the spring split, and then in the summer split, I think Viego just came out, and it was like Viego and Lee Sin with Gore Drinker and Divine Thunder being like really OP. So like you couldn't really play for your team, because if enemy jungle got the item faster than you, he would just take over the game. So, but then going into spring split in EG, I just saw the strengths of our team. Like we knew that our top lane is very stable, and Danny doesn't really like to focus on laning. Like he's the guy that exceeds in team fighting and the time when he gets his items. So we knew that if I would play to just farm, it's not gonna be like good playstyle for the team. So we decided we're gonna try to play more like 4v5 game through the early game, and try to make enemies drag enemies around the map, try to make them contest objectives 4v5, and try to always send any to side lanes before 14 minutes, so we can like get the playthings and get a bit ahead of enemy team. And that was basically our playstyle through summer playoffs. I think through the summer split we didn't really know exactly how to play. We were just like trying a bit of everything. I remember we were trying to put Danny on some early game champions where he was playing some Kai'Sa, he was playing some Kalista, but he was also playing a lot of Zeri and Jinx. So we were like thinking what will be the best way for us to play as a team. And at the end, we just decided that I think it's gonna be roaming mids with like active junglers, and try to stall the game as long as possible, as long as Danny gets items, and then he will take over in the team fights. So yeah, I think through all these years, it just the way I approach people, that was the biggest improvement.
I'm kind of curious because the EG roster, you mentioned that you wanted to go to North America, right, because of the buyout, and Team Liquid was something that was there, and in the EG consideration, they pushed for you heavily. Like Impact was on the roster. Danny had the previous year that really completely like popped off with his fucking pentakills with his Stunner and Jinx. Jojopyun, like that was. How was your introduction to Jojopyun? Like when they sold you on the roster, what did they tell you? Like who presented this player to you, and how was the whole roster kind of presented to you? Because it seems like you were very, very thoughtful about how the best approach was for the game. Was it something that you knew from the get-go, or you realized over time after you took the opportunity?
I honestly, with Jojo, like when he played on academy team, my good friend that I was playing with in Poly League, Mystics, like he was on EG Academy at the time when I was on Rogue in 2021. And then in the summer split, when he came back to Poland after they like lost in the Academy League, I was talking with him, and he said like, you know, like that mid laner, or like even during the split, you know, that mid laner that I'm playing with in America, Jojopyun, is like he is the second up and coming of Jesus. Like he's a god. He will be the best mid laner in NA. And I'm like, bro, like what are you on about? Like you're playing in Academy in NA, like there's no way that guy is gonna be like God. And no, trust me, that guy, he's God. He's gonna be the best mid in NA. And then in off season, I had opportunity to join EG, and then Mystics just tells me like, just go there, trust me. Like this guy, he's a god. Like you will love playing with him. He's really good. Like just trust me. And then I said, okay, sure. And at the beginning, like before I joined, before that, I was like considering maybe like Humanoid will be a better choice. Like Humanoid, maybe he will be interested in joining. Like you maybe you guys from EG should talk to him. But they were also really believing in Jojo, and they said that Jojo is like a really good player, and they're just to trust them. And I said, okay, sure, if you guys believe that. And Mystics told me that he's like really good, and to trust him on that, I decided to just follow that, and it ended up being a correct choice.
Yeah. So for people that don't know, we actually did a Crackdown episode with you, I believe, in 2021, and
Yeah.
I remember something that stood out to me a lot was who you considered your like favorite jungler, like who you thought was like the best jungler that you had ever played against at the time. So for people that don't know, the person that you were really looking up to at that time was SOFM. You were like the biggest SOFM fanboy. Like people at this time were all like, "Oh, Canyon just won Worlds. This guy is a fucking god." And you're like, "No. SOFM is just insane."
Yeah.
Is there a player that you now like have that amount of respect for? Because I always thought that was just interesting that you respected SOFM to that high of a degree.
I don't think there is anyone nowadays that is as respected that I'm as big of a fan as I was of SOFM. I think I was watching every game of him and like all of his solo queues and watching how he plays the game. But when he retired, I sadly didn't have opportunity to anymore. And I mean, right now I'm just watching the top teams whenever they do some funny plays, and whenever the swaps come out right now in Korea, I feel like they're kind of evolving and doing it a bit better than other regions. And whenever they pick a champion, like I watch how they play with Yon mid, for example. That how is it possible that Chovy plays Yon and he the Genji makes it work very well, but when we or C9 played Yon, like Yon was not that useful. Like I don't believe that it's just the player gap has to be big. I think it's just the whole team, the way they play around the pick has to be different. So I'm just like watching what every player or like what the teams with those champions that they are good at, how they are playing, and then we can kind of pick it up for our team. Like with Genji, it's mostly like Yon, Cassante, like how they use those champions, that they always pick them and it always works for them. And for other teams, like for example Genji, when they played also with I mean not Genji, for HLE, when they played with Vi and they played with other melee mids when melee mids were meta. Other than that, I don't really have like one specific player that I'm just watching like I used to do with SOFM. So I'm hoping SOFM will come to Worlds, so maybe we'll get to play against his team.
Sounds good. I'm kind of curious because for me it's very interesting that SOFM is the player that stands out to you, but it seems like there is no better person to be able to say this with conviction, because if I remember correctly, you guys you've been in group with Canyon, what, 3 times in total?
Yeah,
3 times you've been with
3 times I
Damwon
go
Canyon.
3 times I went to Worlds, 3 times it was against Canyon. I mean, Canyon obviously is an insane player, like no doubt about it. But I just felt like SOFM was making more difference for his team, so that was just more impressive for me. And about that, Canyon every time I went to Worlds was in my group and always just beat me. So that's very mean of him.
Yeah,
you had like you ran into Tian, like it was the FBX Tian. You ran into like GDG with Kanavi too, right? What have been your takeaways from like competing at these World Championship against these junglers that are very widely respected in the community? Did you feel like there was a big difference, a big gap? What did it restructure your mind, or was it once again like the same experience? Like, oh, LEC is easy, like Worlds is easy too. I just need my teammates to not be vegan.
Yeah, I mean the first season, the first Worlds I played, I for sure was like really surprised the way they played, because back then I didn't really view the game in the way I do it now. I feel right now I'm like way better at seeing big picture. Before I was just seeing it more from jungle perspective, and I think the biggest difference that they're all on the same page. Like when you play in NA or EU, like sometimes like the bot laners will like not be really connected with the jungler. For example, the jungler has some complete different plan and his bot lane will like start trading for no reason and then make the lane volatile, that it will just give opportunity for enemy team to make plays. While in Asia, the way they play, they're like all connected. Like either they fight bot and then their jungle will come bot, or if their jungle is going topside, then their bot will always like not even look for any trades even like winning matchups, they will just make sure that their lane is stable. They always have first move, and nothing happens in the lane if their team doesn't want to play around them. So it just feels like they have more direction in the game and they're more on the same page, rather than in EUNA, people are kind of like freestyling, and when they see the play, they go for it. While in other regions, they just have it set, so you can kind of expect what's gonna happen after draft from a lot of teams, and yeah, I feel like the game is just more put together in those regions.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this specifically. The every opportunity you get going international and how you differentiate your approaches, because you've been to MSIs, you've been to Worlds a bunch of times now, and I feel like every time you're trying to find a new approach, like something else that's going to give you the advantage where you can make a run, because the dream is obviously to win Worlds. Like, there's always that hope in the back of your mind. So what do you think are your like specific takeaways? Because people that haven't gone there before, we hear the stories. They go to Worlds, they go to MSI, they get shit on in scrims, have 15% win rate, if they're lucky. Then they're super demoralized, go on stage, the team doesn't even remember how to win games, and everything falls apart. So like, how do you approach going to Worlds again, from obviously a weaker region than LPL LCK?
I mean, I feel like the biggest thing you need to focus on is trying to get good at like what champs are good in the meta. I feel like the Asian teams are not the best at reading the meta. Really often they will pick the champions because they had success with it. So I feel like if you wanna beat them, like you really need to be ahead of them in that part and know what's strong and why you pick certain champs. Like what do you wanna do with them, and that can already give you a pretty big edge that I think you need as a NA team in order to beat Asian teams. And other than that, I'm not sure. I feel like you have to get a little bit lucky, like on the day when you play against those teams. Like the players are really good there, but they're also humans. Like they can also make mistakes, and yeah, if you capitalize on their mistakes and you just play with confidence, and you know that you are just playing against humans that will also that are also capable of losing, I think you can beat them. But yeah, I don't know what else I could say about that.
I'm
Good enough.
kind of curious because I mentioned like the international junglers, right? And in the end, you got the last laugh against Elioya, right? You beat them 3-0 in to qualify to the World Championship, which was good after the best of fives that occurred in the previous year, 2021, when they were back-to-back champion, right? I'm curious now because you faced up against every Western jungler that like can be mentioned, like maybe some old school ones you missed out on, like Cyanide or like Diamondprox or something. But now that you have faced off against pretty much everybody, how do you? Which are the players that have given you the most resistance? Is it Bwipo? Is it anybody else? And where would you place yourself in the conversation of like the Western GOAT jungle conversation?
I think Western GOAT jungler for sure has to be Jankos. I think playing against Jankos at the beginning, like especially when I first joined, like I just couldn't win. Like I felt like every other team was like beatable. I don't know if it was just Jankos effect or it was Jankos plus Caps effect. I think it for sure had to be a big part of it that he was playing with Caps, and I feel like he was really good at making sure Caps is in a good spot, and then after that Caps would just solo take over the game. So it just felt so hard to do anything because he was always where he was needed. Like he was either salvaging situations in bot side or just covering Caps whenever Caps needed that, and then they were just playing very well as a team, not being scared to like pull the trigger and make plays happen. So I feel like that was for sure the hardest matchup to play against. Other than that, like as you said, I think Bwipo was really good in jungle. Like I felt like he was not making many mistakes and not making unnecessary plays like a lot of players do. Like a lot of players, I feel like when they have downtime in the game, they will go for some play that is completely unnecessary, and sometimes it will work well, but sometimes they will just put their team in the bad situation or themselves in the bad situations. And I feel like Bwipo didn't really do that. So it was also pretty hard to play against him because you just couldn't afford to make mistakes. And other than that, I didn't really feel like I had any problems against other teams. I think when Mad Lions was winning, they were pretty good as playing mid jungle, like Humanoid and Elyoya. They were playing like Ryze with Lee Sin, like Ryze with Volibear, or just playing Humanoid on a scaling mage. So I feel like they were just good as a team. I wouldn't say that Elyoya was like a hard player to verse. I think they just knew what their win condition was. It seemed like the coaching staff for sure helped them a lot in order to win a lot of stuff, like 2 trophies that year. But as a jungle goat, I would for sure choose Jankos. I don't think anyone else gave me as much trouble as he did.
Yeah. What about the fact that Yike has more titles than him? No, you don't care about this?
I don't know.
You're disrespecting the most winning jungler of all time in the West. That's all I'm saying.
I played against Yike on the esports World Cup, and he didn't really impress me. I feel like he didn't really do anything in those games, and I expected way more. I thought that he is actually pretty good, and I just have played 3 games, so I'm not really sure yet. I think I need to play against him a bit more, because just from watching him, I feel like he's not bad for sure, but I don't know if I would put him as a goat of jungle right now, because I didn't play against him enough. I think I need to play some scrims during Worlds against that team, and then I can maybe tell how good he is. But I feel like playing with Caps, it just makes your life so much easier, that if you could put like Elyoya, Razork, anyone on that team, then they would also win the trophies with them.
Okay. Oh, well, I think the Jankos one is an easy one. Maybe I should rephrase the question. I think that Jankos deserves the respect that he has for sure. Do you put yourself then at the solid second? Considering you took G2 2020, you took them to 5 games. That was a very fucking close series. I remember you were slamming Lilia, and we also mentioned already on the show that you're 22 years old. It's kind of crazy that you've fit in so much in your life. Like you were 2 older gentlemen here, but would you solidify your opinion about yourself as a solid second then?
I don't know if I can be a second GOAT. I think I'm second best right now, but I feel like I maybe need to achieve a bit more before I can call myself that. But just skill-wise, I do believe that I'm currently probably the best player in the West in the jungle. So I feel confident playing against any other player.
Yeah.
Okay. Dom, you agree with this one, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, no. Like we've had different discussions on the show with other junglers, and for somebody like me, when I watch the game, I'm kind of like a jungle purist in a way. Like I care about like what is like the best decision possible for junglers, and I'm not too results oriented when it comes to like if a gank is successful or not, or whatever, if somebody gets ahead or not. And part of the reason why I've been somebody who wanted you to get MVP in spring, for example, is because I feel like you just don't make many mistakes, and you also have the like champion pool to play everything. So that's the thing that I respect the most about your game. Is normally you see that people have harder times going between different metas. Like if the meta right now is playing Maokai Sejuani, Ivern over and over again, and people are playing this. If they have to throw in a random Lilia game, or if they have to throw in, like an 80 jungler for a specific game, they have to play a Vi. It feels like there's always a drop off of them trying to remember how to play the champion and make it function within the game. So for you, how do you bounce back between all the different styles? Is it just like something that comes naturally to you? Do you have anything that you really like think about when you play different champions in different metas? Because I feel like your advantage, especially in this last best of 5, is the fact that you can bounce back between the carries and the utility tanks so easily.
I think it's easy for me because like during the draft, I already start giving my input to the game. For example, I never really tell my team to pick like carry jungler when I feel like my lanes are weak, because it just doesn't make sense to me. Like whenever I want the carry jungle, I'm just telling my team like, but I need a strong bot lane, then I'm not gonna play carry jungle with the weak bot lane. If you wanna pick weak bot lane, just pick me scaling tank, and I will just make sure you guys scale. Let's not play like random champs. So that's why I feel like our drafts are pretty good. And then after the draft is done, I just know my role in the game. If I'm supposed to be the guy that is trying to drive the early game and just secure objectives, or am I supposed to just try to not let enemies dive any side lane and try to get my jungle, and going even is just fine for the game? Or do I need to like start pressuring the game at level 6 because we needed with our team comp, or I need to maybe get enemy Sams on mid lane because we need to kill him at level 6. Otherwise, like he plays Azir and he will just push us for the whole game and outscale us. So I feel like it's just a good idea about what the win condition is in the game, and that just like targets what I do in the game. So I think from the get-go, I just have idea on what my job is during the game, and I try to tell everyone around me what their job is, so everyone knows what the win condition in the game is.
Very interesting. We had conversations on podcast Dom and I, and it's like he if I understand correctly, Dom likes to look at games through the lens of the role that he has played the most. Of course, like I always look at it through the lens of the lanes, and sometimes like I was looking, I was like, oh, maybe there was an opportunity here to cheese something, maybe there was something to take here, but. And that was the main thing that I was like holding against you, that when the game allowed itself to be dynamic, that there were opportunities that you maybe missed. But after this best of 5, especially against the Team Liquid game where you like fucking level 3 gang bot with the Zyra because of how the matchup was going and how like what the information was available to you, I was like, damn, okay, this guy doesn't fuck around. He is farming because he can, and everybody is kind of in tune with the idea that he has. Because I remember watching like the first Lille game. I was like, oh, he's farming, he's grabbing all the camps, he's stealing everything away. But the fights were kind of decided without this fed Lilia, because it was like that fight around Drake when you're hitting the Drake, keeping your stacks, and then your team already won the game. I was like, okay, so what's happening here? I need to see a little bit more from Inspired. And I can say that I can bite my tongue and say that, bro, after that Zyra level 3 gang bottom, I was mind blown. I was very, very impressed. What I wanted to segue this little fellatio session into was when I was watching the 100 Thieves series, I wasn't too impressed. I wasn't too impressed with where you guys were at. I thought that moving into the FlyQuest, like the Team Liquid finals, I didn't have like super high expectations, because I thought that there was like moments where Quad couldn't really farm side, like they were pressuring as 3 while you were farming. Maybe that was like a concrete decision that you guys made, but you won the games in the end because, of course, you guys are just better. How did you feel coming into that like final weekend, playing against 100 Thieves and then moving into the finals? Where was the confidence level at? What was your judgment based on what you knew about Team Liquid from scrims? What was your overall impression coming into that finals weekend?
I mean, honestly, I was not sure if we're gonna win or not. I feel like it's more like a 50-50. I was happy that Cloud9 lost, that's for sure. Because I felt way more confident against 100 Thieves. Like, I felt like 100 Thieves is gonna be a free win, but I was not sure if it would be a free win against Cloud9, because I feel like they just have really good laners that, even though they're not good as a team, like if you get a big lead in the lane, it's often really hard to win the game. Like if we lose one team fight, then there is no comeback after that. So I don't really like to play against them. So I was happy about them losing there. And against the Team Liquid, I don't know. I felt like they're not mechanical gods. Like I knew that if the game goes to team fights and they don't get a lead on swapping, and then in mid game when CoreJJ is like always getting tempo and trying to dive one side lane, if that doesn't happen, they don't really get the lead off of that, and game goes to team fights, I just feel like their carries are not really that good at positioning and dealing damage. I feel like CoreJJ nowadays is not that crispy with his engages anymore. Like it's kind of predictable what he wants to do or when he wants to engage, and I feel like that's where we are playing very well. I feel like we are really good at taking space in the team fights and like being patient with our cooldowns. So I was just hoping that the games don't get too chaotic in the early game, and we just stable it out and then play better in team fights. And I feel like that's kind of what was happening. Especially like in game 1, I think I was trying to make the game a bit stable with Lilia, and then as you said, like I was not really using many cooldowns, but I'm the guy that when we start winning the team fight, I just make sure that we don't use too much, because for no reason, like I like when you win the team fight to kill 1 or 2 people, like no one really flashes forward or uses ults to chase the extra kills, because it's really unnecessary. And that's why it's often I was just standing there and I say, okay, the team fight is over, I'm just not gonna use anything, I'm gonna keep it for the next fight, and then enemy can't really even come back to the game. Yeah. Yeah, I guess we the game went how I wanted it to go. Yeah, every game was kind of going into late game. I think the game 4 usually we would have ended with our comp, but I think we just got way too excited because it was like the last game of the series that we are about to win the championship. So everyone was like really hasty to win it. So I think that's why we kind of threw it.
Yeah, I wanted to go a little bit more into this because I think that this is something that when you're watching the game, it's really easy for people to like understand is like, oh, okay, this guy flashed for the kill, but like the kill doesn't really do anything. And just the pressure that you generate by having like flashes up and being able to kind of evaluate all the resources that a team has for, a future fight. How in game did you get so good at being able to like evaluate all the resources on the fly? Because obviously it's a lot harder to do when you're in a fight. Most players don't play like that. Most players, if they see extra kills, if they can flash forward, get one more Lilia kill in a fight, even if Baron's not up and the Drake's already secured, they're going to do it just because they see it in front of them. Like, what was the way that you were able to figure this stuff out and analyze it in game so accurately?
I think it comes with the way you should team fight as a team. Like I just know who on your team is the guy that is supposed to like ego on enemies, and who's the guy that is supposed to like stand behind him, and then you can evaluate like whose flash is really important. Like for example, when I play the game where I play a tank, like I play the Mumu. If I have a flash, like I know that enemies have to be scared of me, and if I don't have it, then they can kind of like try hitting me. So it's like very important that I just keep my flash through the whole team fights, and then no one can replay the game. And in the other game, same for Lila. Like if you just keep your flash and you just look at enemies, you don't really have to do anything. You just wait for your carry to hit their tank, and you just look at him and look at the enemy backline. And as long as they're not playing the game, you are also not playing the game. So you're just waiting and letting your team just do the work. And in the other game, I'm like telling my, for example, quad, like just keep your cooldowns, everything, because you are the guy that has to keep cooldowns now, and you just stand there and look at the enemies, and we are hitting the backline, and you are just threatening that if they play the game, you will start playing the game. And that way I just know when you are supposed to use your flash, and like if enemies are not using them, I'm also not using them. And in some other games, I'm telling Massu that if you have flash up and no one from us can really take any space, you have to be the one walk up and like make enemies go on you and then flash away, and then we'll follow on them going on you. So I don't know. I think it just all comes to the team fighting and knowing what flashes are important. Sometimes you know that enemies needs to keep their flashes, so you're just gonna flash to trade flashes with them so they can replay the team fight how they're supposed to play. So yeah, I think it just comes to like watching a big picture and knowing what do you wanna do with your champion, and if your flash or enemy flash is like more important.
Yep.
Well, if I got goosebumps listening to this, because I think this is probably the hardest thing to get players to understand.
It's so impossible. Like I don't know. He makes it sound easy, but it's so impossible in the game to think like this. I don't know. Maybe it just comes easy to you, but when you watch games all the time, I mean, top level teams don't understand this. So I don't know. I'm kind of shocked.
It's fucking sick because that's what it comes down to, right? It's like the best 80s in the world. They're like provoking. They are getting the engage. They're posturing forward. They know if the enemy commits into them, your teammates are going to then like activate themselves, and there is no like overforced thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm curious, like how could you get someone like Bwipo to buy into something like this? Because Bwipo in my day was a wild man. I was like, Bwipo, if we take the mid wave and we step into River, we're going to get better opportunities there because they need to face shake into us. But he's like, but if I can go, I need to go. And Hilly's right there. It's like, yeah, we need to go, bro. We need to go. I'm like, ah.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to get Bwipo on the same page. Like whenever this happens, he is also like, oh, but I feel like if I flash in here, I will just kill them. So he wants to kill them already. So I mean, it's kind of hard to get Bwipo on that idea. Like if he sees the play, he likes to not be called off, and he likes to instantly go for it if he sees it. So that's like it's a good thing and also a bad thing, because very often he can just win you the game with that. But in some other situation, he can do something that's completely unnecessary and like either die himself or like put the team in the worst position. So I think it's like I don't know if it's like exactly good to do stuff like that, but I feel like if you can perfect it, it's really good to have it, because then you will only go for the good plays and you will not do the bad ones. But yeah, you have to be really like decisive and really good at reading the situation if you wanna play like that.
So, about Bwipo, I think it's funny because when people like talk about your team, everyone says that you and Bwipo are kind of like I mean, at least before the split, like you guys kind of ran the team. It's like you guys had the closest like bond as to mindset about how to play the game. But when I think about how you like to play the game, and I think about Bwipo, I would think that Bwipo would be the most frustrating player in the world for you to play with. So what do you really like about Bwipo as a player? Because when I see him playing like Renekton Cassante, like dying level 3 and just all these things that happen in the game that shouldn't happen, I feel like all this would trigger you, but it seems to not trigger you that much. Like, why does Bwipo just get the pass from you to, be crazy within the game?
I don't know. Bwipo is just playing his own game. Like, even though he dies, he just feels like it will not affect his matchup and his job. Like, he will be able to keep doing that, and it just, I don't know, it just doesn't seem like he's dying. Like, he's still doing the same thing he would do even if he didn't die. And enemies had to put some resources in order to like even kill him in the first point. So I mean, sometimes he's just inting. Sometimes he's just like making so much space for the team that we are able to just play the game so freely on the other side. And I think this playstyle is like very hard to execute because, as I said before, like if you manage to always make good decision and like die on the timers that enemies need to put so much resources to kill you, it's like so OP and like it's so good for your whole team and for the whole game. But if you overstep and you just die for fun, it just looks like you're feeding and you're actually just feeding. So, but he likes it. I think it just gives him all fun about the game, like making those tough calls and like playing the game like that. And whenever, even if he ints, like he doesn't lose confidence in himself, so he keeps playing the way he believes he's supposed to play. So I don't know, he's just a unique player in that way.
I feel like the best example was like the third game against 100
The
Thieves,
GP?
where it's like I was thinking when he was fighting against 4 people with his Olaf, with Ivan, and like surviving and like making like a miracle fight win out of nowhere. But then like the juxtaposition, I'm thinking like when he played the fucking Urgot game against Jax, I'm kind of curious. I would love to be a fly on the wall to hear the conversation after that game, because the people in that game was like getting solo killed by Jax after having good state, and then like after killing in River, he like face checked into Jax, and then Jax took the full turret, and then the game was kind of in shambles. I feel like in my imagination, I imagine you like, yo, what the fuck was that?
Yeah, I was like,
what was
like,
the conversation
what the fuck was that? Like, if you don't int, the game is so free, and it's like, yeah, I know, it's okay, my fault, guys, it's fine. Like, I don't even down this game. Like, it's fine. I will do better next game. I'm like, okay, sure, bro. Let's do it next game. Like, the moment he ints, he's like, oh, I inted. Sorry, my bad.
The funny thing is, we had this talk show this morning, and Dom was making an impression of Bwipo, and it was exactly these words.
No, it's exactly what I said. I just entered. I mean, I entered the game, but it's. I mean, there's nothing I could do. I mean, I shouldn't have went for the play, but I went for the play. But it's okay. We can win the next game. I just went into it. It is what it is. Like, but this is actually so accurate. I said this on a coach group like 2 weeks ago, where I'm like, the thing about Bwipo is that he'll int the game, but like he doesn't shrivel up the way players do normally when they're inting.
Yeah,
like normally
exactly.
A player has one bad death and then they just completely abandon everything and they're just trying to get carried at that point. They lose all pressure in the game. They just don't want to look like more of a feeder. And Bwipo can go out there and be like 0-7 and he will play the next game the same way as if he just Giga Smurfed the game previous to that.
Yeah.
Like it'll just be the same exact player. So I respect that about him as a player. He's a funny player to watch. I mean, there's definitely games where there's just nothing you can say about it. Like the Volibear game, that was one that just came to mind. The Volibear versus Renekton game, where there's this fight top, and it's like the most unwinnable fight. Renekton hits 6, you're trying to leave, you're playing Viego level 5, and then I just see Bwipo like ult in. Instead of just ulting out or flashing out, he just ults in, dies, like the whole game explodes off of it. And then the next game he's fine. The next game he's playing Darius, whatever, it's fine. But those bad games that he has, I feel like are the ones that the fans really hold against him, because he will take the feeding to a level that we haven't seen before, an unprecedented amount of feeding.
Yeah, but I feel like, as I said, it's better to have him like keep feeding and like trying to come back to the game rather than like do nothing, lose complete pressure on the map, and hope his team carries you. Obviously, like if you see like your team is in position to carry you can just like try to get carried and not keep dying. But if you know that the game is going to shit and you need to actually do something, like just keep trying, and I feel like he will always keep trying to come back and to turn the game around.
I'm curious about like the whole like build up of the team. I am really intrigued by like Busio's improvement. Like he seems to be just a completely different player. I felt like the last two best of fives, I feel like he really put his foot forward. Usually it's like how you rate supports is just how in tune they are with how the enemy is stacking waves. And I thought that you guys did a really fucking good job of being aware of like Team Liquid swaps. And I felt like Busio was just really on point and defending like quad on side, making sure that they can farm and catch those waves while you are like clearing the camps and stealing like blue, Gromp, Wolf while the enemy is trying to like tempo dive. What can you say about your Polish brother, Busio? How has his improvement been? Because like I think back at MSI, I was like, this guy is fucking, he's not good, he's not there yet, you know. But then all of a sudden, better.
I think Mitty joining just helped him a lot. I mean, they are working together every day after like every single scrim on where Alan should be on the map. So we already were talking about it before. Like whenever we played against TL, it felt like we need to just abandon mid lane in the mid game. Like we have to go to side lane and make sure that when enemies are playing those proactive champions in the jungle and support, that we don't let them just get the towers in our face. Like he needs to be there to cover pretty much every wave, and then he has to just rotate in between mid and the side lane that the enemies are playing towards. So you kind of need to like predict where they are gonna play. Mostly if enemies are playing with like carry mid laners, they will just play for that side. So you always just try to go there and defend. And whenever we have champions that can actually fight them, then we'll be there ready to fighting them. And that's like the biggest thing we're working on, I think. And other than that, just knowing on when he should be engaging and when he should not be engaging. Like I think giving free damage in team fights and engaging too early was like always the biggest issue of NA supports, and I think it still is. So I think that's what we've been working the most on, like telling him when he's supposed to go and when he just has to spectate, like I was talking about earlier. And I think he's been doing a really good job of that. He has like his whole notepad that every time someone tells him how to do stuff differently, he like takes a screenshot of the game, asks why he should do it differently, and then like saves it so later he can just look at it and like remember why he needs to do something differently. Like it's really impressive. He has like a really big notepad with everything he's learning.
Oh,
so I think his work ethic is what like makes him improve pretty fast. And
holy shit.
Yeah.
I respect that a lot.
That's really insane, bro. That's really insane. Like I was listening to like Hotline League, and Nuktak was saying on the show, like he was just saying, "Yo, like Busio came from 100 Thieves and double lift, basically like held him by like a chain, and like basically like borderline ruined his confidence because he just had to do what he was told. And it's like you miss so many opportunities, to grow. It seems like he got like like the rookie year experience in terms of like which people he's now surrounded by, because like looking at what kind of experience is there, it's like there's Bwipo, Nukdak, and of course Mithy too. Like there's so much to soak in, and I'm always super happy to hear like when a player really understands the opportunity that they have at hand, and it sounds like Busio is doing exactly that. That's really based. I love that.
Yeah.
I think the player to talk about now is Massu, because I mean this is one of the best rookies I've seen in a while. You know, I respect his improvement a lot, and I feel like a lot of his improvement in part is credited to you from what I've seen. So you became the guy that has worked with a bunch of like rookies at this point, and people give you a lot of credit for developing them. Do you think that like Massu just had insane talent? Like how was he able to acclimate to LCS level so quickly as an AD carry? Because when I was looking at these games, it felt like, you know, the bot lane was actually a point of strength, which was always the part that people were skeptical of in FlyQuest, you know, even going back to Spring Split and International the first time at MSI.
I mean, I do think Massu is a talented player. I don't know if he's as talented as Jojo was. I feel like Jojo was just like magically talented. Like the moment I started playing with him, he just had that something in him. While Massu, I feel like he's a very hard worker and his mechanics are really insane. But his like game knowledge was not at the best level. Like he didn't really know why he picks champions, or like when he has winning matchup, he didn't really know how to get the lead for himself. If he had losing matchup, he like played like the matchup is normal and he just lose more than he should and he didn't really know when he should be played around and when he should just like let his support leave lane and try to play alone. Like he often, like I told him, like, why would you step up for mid prio in mid game when like everyone is in base? Like you don't even gain anything of that. He didn't even like think about stuff like that. He like put himself in risk really often. I feel like he didn't have this like mindset of ADC that some ADCs, when they feel like they're about to be in danger, they will just like not keep positioning, or like they would just feel they might die soon, while Massu just played with no fear and often he just died for no reason. So we were working on all of that aspects and just trying to get him on like more competitive side of playing, like knowing that this is a team game, that whenever he needs someone to do something for him, he can just call them. And when we need something from him, we pick him certain champ for like we pick him Ash to make sure he has bot prio and he's always in good condition for objectives. He needs to make sure that he's not like destroying his tempo in lane and then makes our mid laner have to respect like a support roam timer, or we have to respect someone moving somewhere around the map. That if he picks champ like that, he needs to make sure that he's like helping his teammates and he's in the good spot to start taking objectives. Then telling him that if he plays champs like Zeri, we will be there for him to like make sure that he can scale and just try to get as much resources as possible. So at the beginning, he was just playing more like a solo queue style play style, but now he's just getting used to playing a team game, and I think he has mechanics to execute it, and he just needed to like know what is correct decisions in the game, and I think that's why it started looking like he's a way better player than he was at the beginning, because I don't think his mechanics like drastically changed. I think he was really good from the get-go, but now he just plays with idea in his mind, and that's why it looks better than it did before.
Yeah, definitely. So out of your recent teams and all the different rosters you've been on, I think the one that is the most forgettable to most people is that 2023 spring roster where you had Someday on your team, you have Vulcan, FBI, you have this EG roster, and the results are not what people expected with this roster. And you know, you went from a team that had only veteran players. I mean, at that point, I guess Jojo's not really a veteran, but you know, you had majority veteran players to now playing with a lot of, you know, rookies and people that have not played that much competitive. Do you have a preference to work with rookies, or is this just kind of how it turned out?
I mean, the EG team with Sunday and FBI, I didn't really feel like they were veterans. Like to me, Sunday and FBI, they didn't play like veterans. To me, I don't know.
Damn.
FBI seemed like kind of like way worse Massu to me. Like I think his mechanics were worse, and he also like had this issue about the like not understanding his role in the game. So that's what I was working on him, and I feel like it was getting better going into playoffs. But we only played one split together, so I didn't really get to like, I guess, teach him much or like get used to playing with him. And with Someday, I think Someday was like playing on an island. Like he was the top laner that doesn't like interact with team in the game. He was just playing his own game. He was not saying anything. He didn't care that much about the big picture either. He was just playing the game in the top lane, and I don't really think that's the way you should play in top. I think you can easily include yourself in the game and make sure that you are part of it. While I feel like he was not really doing it, so it was kind of hard for me to work with him. So it didn't really feel like a veteran player. I feel like veteran players should be good at including himself in the game, while Someday wasn't really good at it. So that's why I said it didn't really feel like playing with a veteran player. And and about, do I rather play with like veterans or rookies? I don't know. It's hard to say. I like to play with good players. So
Okay.
if I see the
Fair.
rookie with like really good mechanics, I'm always happy, because I know that I will help him get on the same page in the game. And if he has good hands, like he will be able to play the situations well, and we will be able to win games. And so for me, honestly, it's even easier to play with rookies that has good mechanics rather than play with someone who knows what to do, but maybe his mechanics are not that good. Because I feel like jungle is maybe the only role, but even then, I feel like you should have really good mechanics on every role, in my opinion. But jungle can be like the only one that can somehow play if you are a bit worse player than the rest of people on the Rift. But if you are playing like carry role and you don't have great mechanics, I feel like it's really hard to succeed.
Mm.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened? Why did the roster disband? How come you sat out one split? What the fuck happened?
Oh, bro, I don't
You
know.
were playing this Polish tournament, like you were playing this Polish team. I'm interviewing you. I'm like, what the fuck is Inspired doing here, man? Why is he not playing?
Bro, I have no idea, honestly. Like, EG between the splits told us that we are getting dropped because the EG as an organization is having some problems, and then after that, they still kept me under the contract and decided to sign Armao and keep playing with Shaden from academy, like promote him to main team. And I was still under the contract, and I said that even with reduced pay that I was getting on the bench, like I'm willing to play with that. Like I'm not gonna
They
be
chose our mail over Inspired. Yamato, you're gonna lose your mind.
I'm not gonna be like demanding to get paid like full. Like I understand they have problem, and I will just play with that. But they decided to not do it. I was like surprised, but
God damn.
not much I could have done about it. And
Oh
yeah,
man.
just talking about Jojo every time about it, he's like I don't know why they were doing that. Like he really believed it would make worlds with me, and I also think so. But it was their choice. Like I was really shocked about it, but I couldn't really do anything.
That is so mental. That's got to be one of the things that like I mean,
that was
EG.
really mental.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. They had the option to play with Inspired with reduced pay, and instead they had Armao play over him. That is fucking mental.
My days.
If you don't know Inspired, Armao is, I think, Yamato's least favorite player worldwide. Actually, like this Yamato just can't stand him. I don't know. Like for me, I play a lot of solo queue with Armao, and he's like, this guy is like always high rate. So I have like that like solo queue. I'm like, yeah, it just doesn't work on stage, but I can see something there. But for Yamato, who only just watches him in the game, Yamato just can't stand him.
I can't, bro. Like even this split, bro. Like he got Ivan bans the entire time, and then finally he gets the Ivan, and then he just refuses to buy Redemption. He goes like, I couldn't believe it. Like Redemption's the most broken item in the game. Enemy had like Sejuani, Ashe. He refused to buy Mikhail's, and he was just running it down, inting. He's buying like fucking, I don't know what the fuck he was buying. I was just going insane.
Yeah, and
there's never been a player that makes me want to punch the screen more, man. Like, it just upsets me, bro. And to hear this story, bro, like it makes my blood boil, bro. Holy.
Let's change it up. Okay, so there's a story I heard about specifically. You can tell me how much of this is true, but I heard that you were supposed to come into Vitality in the last week of the summer split in 2023. That you were going to actually play. And the story that I heard, I don't know if this is true or not, but the story I heard is that you were like at the airport. You're like fucking ready to go. You're like going to play. You're getting ready to get on the plane. And then they call you last minute and they're like, actually, Inspired, go fuck yourself. Instead, we're going to have Douglas play instead. I was like, what the fuck, Douglas? Who the fuck is that? And then he just ended up playing and they ended up bombing out in that last week. Is this story true? Is this just some bullshit that I heard behind the scenes?
Yeah, I mean, it's real. I was already at the airport. I was about to fly to Berlin to play that last week with them.
No way.
It got cancelled. I mean, it didn't happen. It didn't get cancelled because they just said to fuck off and they will play with Douglas.
Okay, yeah.
Like,
I made that part up.
There was some more to it. Some stuff that Vitality was trying to pull off, but I don't know if I can talk more about it. So I rather not. But yeah, that was very close to happening, and in the end, it didn't. Yeah.
Damn.
Yamato, what are your thoughts here? Did you hear the same story at the time?
Yeah. I remember like there was the whole meme. It's like people were saying a Polish jungler will 100% play, and then there was like some accounts. I don't know. It was like Selfmade was like memeing. It's like Inspired is at the airport right now. I was like, this can't make any sense, bro. Because it gave me trauma because back in season 3, I got fucking the call from Mark Merrill while I was at the airport. It's like your team is banned. Jensen is perma-banned. Darkwing Jackson is perma-banned, and your top laner, whoever the fuck that is also perma-banned.
I got the same call. I'm like, you're fucking perma-banned too. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, what do you mean I'm perma-banned? Like, I already made LCS. I'm perma-banned. Oh man.
Oh man. But you felt? Did you feel you were calm? No, like I remember like you. It seemed like you were calm. You seemed like you were ready for next year. No problem.
Yeah, I mean, I knew that for sure I will like get a tip. Like I don't know if people were watching my games or not, but I mean, to me, I was playing decently fine in EG. I felt like our team was not really strong, and I was still making a lot of use of what we had, and I wasn't really like too scared of not getting a job. But it was not many teams interested in me. I guess in the end, it was mostly just FlyQuest. So I was a bit surprised about that. That it's just that one team. But yeah, I'm happy now that it worked out with FlyQuest, and everything is going great.
Speaking of working out, I think like the MSI and the Jensen removal coming into quad is like the only teammate that we haven't really asked you about. It seems pretty straightforward. It just seems like mechanically good, very, very, very kind, heartwarming in the interviews. What can you tell us about quad?
I mean, I feel like quad is the biggest difference about Korean players and NA and EU players. I feel like they're very patient in the game and they will wait for the good moment to make a play, and that's how I feel about quad. Like whenever he gets a lead, he will not be like Bwipo or Massu that are like trying to squeeze 110% out of every situation. He will be just like getting his minions, getting slow good trades in where he doesn't really lose any HP, so he doesn't put himself in a bad situation. But he will be always first to move and ready for plays. He will be looking himself if he can like TP somewhere or make a roam. Like sometimes he tells bot lane to like stack wave and he will just go there and dive enemies because he says that he has perma prio at this point of the game, and he's just patient with the situation he has. It's just nice and easy, I guess, to play with him because I feel like he's for sure better than every other LCS player at laning. So he's putting himself in the good situations, and then he just doesn't make the game chaotic. So he's always ready to make a play. And if anyone comes to his lane, you can always like get something off it. Like you either go for vision or you help him get an extra lead, or like maybe you can walk up for play with the cannon wave or stuff like that. So I don't know. It's very nice to play with him. I feel like he has a good idea on what his job is in the game and what he should do and what he should avoid doing.
That's definitely like when you tie into, I guess, some of the issues you guys had in spring and the whole like the interview with like fucking like vegan gameplay and so forth. Like I like always when I was watching like quad, especially like the Zeri games, it seemed like he was very aware of what he needed to do in the fights, and it seems like those are the type of players that that are willing to elevate risk when you need to elevate risk and don't have like a very like a steady pulse no matter what the game is.
Yeah.
I'm curious because the big change was quad and the big change was like Mythy, but in general you guys just seem way more as a team than you ever were in spring. I feel like in spring, looking at you guys, it just seemed like, oh, we have some talented players here. They managed to piece it together sometimes, but the moment Team Liquid kind of played more as a team, you guys kind of faded into obscurity, and then MSI was of course very, very rough. Two-sided question, I guess. What more can you tell us about what went down at MSI? Because it's like some of the rumblings that came, like it seemed like the situation was very tense. But the conclusion of the changes that you guys made and so forth, like how did everything go down? What was the inside scoop of what was going down in FlyQuest at MSI?
I mean, we're kind of losing most of our games at MSI, and it felt like it was hard to win games. Like we're just low-key getting outclassed in lanes, and then we couldn't really like play team fights well either. Like we're making mechanical mistakes, and it just didn't seem to work too well. And obviously, if you and after that, like we just felt like we needed to make a change. And if you look at our roster, like the easiest change that we could have made was obviously promoting our Korean mid laner from academy rather than try to change anyone else. So we felt like I mean, even before, like when Quad came, like we knew it's a Korean player that is young. Like we never know how he's gonna adjust to America, how he's gonna play in academy. Like he didn't play competitive, and then he was playing academy. He won academy pretty easy. Like he was dominating every game. And then we had troubles in MSI, winning scrims against like bottom LCK teams. So we're thinking like maybe it's time to try that. Like maybe he will be the one that will elevate our gameplay and help us play better. So coming from MSI, we were thinking if we should either try to do like 6-man roster or should we just go with Quad instantly and take a risk on him. And we did take a risk with Quad, and it did work out for us. I was not really like sure if we should make this decision. I think our management was like willing to make a change. I think I talked with Bwipo, and Bwipo said he thinks it's a good idea to make the change. I was not sure if it's that good in between the splits, but if Bwipo said that he thinks it's good and management also agreed in that, I was like, okay, I think it can work. I'm down for that, and we just went with it, and it worked out pretty well, I would say.
I'm curious about like the whole improvement process. Sometimes, of course, like getting a new player in and another coach in, just another fresh perspective can be what was like just the bump that kind of held you back. Like I've had situations where that was the case. I don't wanna put Gilios on blast, but I will anyway. Like there was like we brought in Kikis, right, and we tried like the dynamic, and then we made a commitment to Kikis in the end, and all of a sudden like everything else kind of fell into place, because sometimes, like let's say the wounds of what has happened prevents everyone from kind of breaking out of the box that they're in, because you guys seem like a completely different team, especially like in the final rounds of the best of fives. Were there any other details in terms of like your improvement process, or how you like approach scrims, or in terms of like anything that you guys did that was very different, or was it just as simple as, oh, we have another player, another coach, different perspective, and this just tapped in like the holes that were kind of missing for FlyQuest to succeed?
I feel like not that much change. As you said, I think new coach, new player was like the biggest difference. I think Quad was just giving like more to the team than Jensen was, and like I think he's just all around better player. So like he was better at laning, he was better than at team fighting, and the only issue you could have with him was his communication at the beginning. But I feel like he improved really fast, and he understands everything we say in the game, and so that became a non-issue really fast. And I think the biggest difference was probably Busio. Like I think Miti just helped him a lot in his mid game game. Like he understand where he's supposed to be on the map. Like I think that was the issue against the TL mostly, that we're like kind of lost in mid game, and CallJJ was just like getting lead for his mid laner or his top laner on the side lanes, and just like being always one step ahead of us. So I think we just told Busio, like, if you have this champion against this, and they want to play for that, you just should try to counter that and just not let them get the lead off of that, because we were just making it way too easy. So yeah, I think Busio just understanding like the win conditions of the team and what his job is in the game just made it so much easier for everyone to play. Because I think if you don't have a really strong support on your team, and enemy team has a really strong support, like it's really hard to play the game. Like and I think Busio is the player that improved the most in between the splits, and I think that's why our team just looked better than it did before.
Yeah. So going into Worlds, we have you guys and we have TL. Those are the only two teams going from North America that I will even consider or talk about.
I agree.
Yeah, and
when does Cloud9 play though?
Yeah, when does Cloud9 play? I have no idea. I'm hoping that they find some bug in that third place match and they actually end up going instead of 100 Thieves, something like this, because I have actually zero hope for 100 Thieves. But going into Worlds, I see you guys and I see TL, and I've watched 4 regions for a long time now. And from the outside looking in, this is probably the most hyped I've ever been for North America at Worlds, at least out of the years that I've been co-streaming the last 5 years. I feel like both of you guys are the strongest teams that we've had in our region for a while. Do you feel like this? Because you've been playing in LCS for 3 years now. You've got to see the competition. Do you feel like it's going to be different this year at Worlds for NA, or do you think that maybe it's not as nice as I'm selling it?
I'm not sure. I don't think it's as nice as you're selling it. I don't think we are like the best team that NA had. I feel like on EG we were also a really strong team in 2022. I felt really confident going into that Worlds play-ins and then into the main stage. Like I really believe that we could have beat the teams like JDG or G2 in that tournament. We did manage to take a game of G2, and then against JDG we had like really close game that we could have easily won. So I felt really strong about going into that Worlds. Right now I think I feel very similar way, but I'm not sure who we are gonna face yet. I don't think we're favorites, no matter which Asian team we're gonna play. Like I still think all of these teams are better than us. But I think if we if we like figure out the meta better than them, which I think we are capable of, I think with the whole split we are really fast at picking up the meta and what champs are good and what champs are not good. I think if we manage to do that, we for sure have a shot of beating them. But I think we do have to get some lead in either draft or like as I said, like preparation in order to beat those teams. I wouldn't say that we are so strong team from NA right now that we should be like expecting to beat those teams just the way we play the game, because I think the way we play the game is working because we are just smarter in the game than other teams in NA. But I'm not sure if that type of playstyle will just work against Asian teams. I think you need some extra stuff in order to beat the best teams in the world.
Yeah, and what do you feel about TL? Because they're obviously the other team going, and I was kind of selling it more as like a top 2 pairing. Like when you look at the average level, when I look at you guys back in 2022, when you guys went to Worlds, I didn't feel the same way about the other teams. Like now, I actually feel like we have 2 teams that are like strong and pushing each other. Do you think that that maybe their international performances up until this point, they had I guess I would say 2 close series against T1, and they were able to beat Fnatic a couple times. Do you think that they are like one of the better teams that you've seen if they're going as a second seed?
And I was always a TL hater like for the whole year. That's why I was like so sad we lost to them in the spring split.
Okay.
Because to me, I don't know, APA and Yon don't seem like carry players that will be able to contest with like Asian players. So I'm not sure if that's the team that will actually like beat the Asian teams. I think they're strong because, as I said, they are similar to us. Like they play the game in like more calculated way, and Core JJ is getting like a lot of lead for them, especially when they're playing in an A. And I don't know if it's gonna work in international stage. They did play very well against T1. I feel like their meta read was so much better in the T1 series. Like Impact was making a huge gap on the swaps, and Zeus was like completely lost compared to Impact. So I feel like that was why they were looking so good against T1. But I feel like they have same issue as us. If they don't get the lead of like good preparation or try to pull some good tactic that the enemies are not ready for, I don't think they are stronger teams than Asian teams. I think just mechanical wise and talent wise, I feel like enemy teams are like so strong. So but I do think that TL is a creative team, and I can see them try to pull out Aurelion Sol or keep playing Ziggs in like weird spots that enemies will not really know how to play against. Because I think if you play just standard game, I don't think they're a special team that will magically win against the best in the world.
Okay. There's something that I pondered over. I imagine you guys are just flying straight to Europe, right? There's no boot camp because there's no time, right?
Yeah. Oh no, we are going to Europe and we are gonna boot camp there.
Okay. Because something that I have pondered over is like usually like where Western teams lose is usually like it's like the group situations, team fights, like the awareness of how team fights should be played that's usually where like the big challenge happens. I think there's opportunities to be had in terms of like some of the lower end teams in terms of like their support and jungle play and some of the macro things that they do. I think there's definitely opportunities to get ahead there. But in regards to the whole practice process, knowing now that most likely the Chinese and the Korean teams are going to fly in as late as possible, and you kind of now being kind of in a bubble together with the other Western teams now, screaming against G2, Fnatic, and do you think this is something that could potentially be an advantage, or do you think it's just a disadvantage to not get the feel for how the Eastern teams are going to be in scrims? What is your overall like view in terms of like the prep work now for the World Championship?
I'm not sure if it's advantage or not. I feel like in Asia they're kind of used to, especially in LPL, that people are fighting for everything, while here we are kind of fine dropping some objectives if we feel like we don't need to fight. So that can be something new for those teams. Like if we don't show up for the fight, they might not really like know what's going on. Why are we not fighting? They think they don't replay against opposing team, and they might like get a bit too cocky. I also feel like their team fighting is not like their skirmishing is not as insane, and people make it out to be. Like I was whenever I watch the games, I'm like really often seeing people over reaching for in fights, and just like I don't know, it's not as insane. I feel like the biggest strengths of especially Chinese teams is their laning phase. I think if they don't really get lead in laning phase, I think we can manage to beat them in team fights. But about LCK teams, I don't know. When I watch Viper play team fights and just play the whole game out, same for PaYS. Like I don't know. It seems like they're just robots. Like Korean teams seems a bit stronger to me in that sense, because yeah, I feel like Chinese teams just take way more risk that this can backfire into them. But the way Korean teams play, especially these playoffs, like it seemed way more controlled and a bit harder to verse. But I think is it advantage for us to not scream them? I'm not sure. I mean, I for sure would rather scream them, but maybe we would lose many games and then our confidence level would drop. So maybe if we don't play them at all, we don't really know what to expect, and we'll just play our game and be able to just focus on ourselves. Maybe that will be a better approach. So I'm not exactly sure if it's advantage or disadvantage. I guess we'll see after the results.
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
it's just it's about the mentality, man. Like, can you scrim without actually mental booming from getting shit on like 20 games in a row? Guess we'll have to see.
No, I'm excited. You guys, I'm wondering. You are always playing against Damwon. Maybe you play them again. I think it's really OP to just be number one team, right? At least
we are first, and I think like we are first, so we are gonna play against fourth seed from LCK on LPL. So it's very possible it's gonna be Damwon.
Yep, could be Damwon.
Oh, like I guess it's not Canyon now, but it's Damwon. It's still Showmaker.
Have I misunderstood the format? Because I thought one plays against four, and LPL and LCK 4 is in 2 and 3, no? Am I crazy?
Isn't LCK... Oh, wait, is it 3?
Because I think there's 4 playing teams that qualify, and they are seed 4.
Oh.
And LPL, LCK, so basically it's like Fnatic and Team Liquid are fun, maybe. Because they play against Chinese, Korean, no matter what. Because the whole third pool is all Korean and all Chinese.
I see.
So you guys might play against like PSG, Mad Lions, maybe.
Oh shit, like... PSG. PSG.
Oh fuck, PSG, not again.
Fuck. Oh no.
No, not again.
Maybe we get to play against Mad Lions. That would be better.
Yeah.
That'd be a banger, yeah.
I'd be down for that. But if man, Inspired, if you embarrass us and you lose to Mad Lions, I'm never gonna hear the end of it. Do you know how many Spanish death threats I'm gonna get if you fucking lose to Mad Lions? Like,
to don't do it with me, please.
Yeah, no, but like all I'm saying is just for my sake, bro. Like don't even think about yourself. Just for my sake, please save me from the embarrassment if you lose to Mad Lions.
I'll try my best. I'll try my best.
Thank you. All right. And if I've ever done anything fucked up to you that has made you want to int my entire life, I apologize right here. Okay. That's all I'm saying.
Honestly, though, bro, number one seed is a huge advantage.
Yeah.
Like, even Liquid Fnatic playing Chinese, Korean, no matter what, like they are in the deep end right from the get go.
Yeah, but it's also just for the first game. Like the second game is Insta against the Asian team for sure. So.
I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Fnatic takes them out. Maybe Fnatic just makes a miracle happen. All right. So we normally open up our show to the guest at this point, where we say if there's anything that you wanted to talk about, if there's any topic that you wanted to bring up, or in your case, if there's any like player or teammate you want to just like throw under the bus so we get like a really solid title. If there's anyone in your career you just want to like flame going back, call somebody a vegan, blame somebody for a loss. If there's anything that you want to do here, it's up to you. If not, we could just end the show here. Is there anything that you have on your mind?
It's okay. I think I don't need to flame anyone right now. Like,
okay,
it's not a good look for me.
Okay, he's feeling good. He's won, bro. He's won.
Yeah.
Okay, he's trying to get Reddit back on his side. Yeah. Perfect.
Nice.
All right. Well, that has been the episode. Thank you for being here, Inspired. Banger episode. Good luck at Worlds. Please don't lose to Mad Lions. And
I'll try my best.
We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See you.